obligation as educators to speak life into each one of you.
Your generation is demanding change, and I want to thank all of you. Your voices matter.
You are working together. You are supporting each other, and together, you are going to change the world.
My dream is to work for education, to see every child going to school for a bright future, for a better world.
It's all of you coming together to change this world.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of We Schools Live. I'm so glad you made it. Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in for this very special Feature Friday. Also, I had to get rid of my mustache. I messed up trimming this morning, so we're going to start over. So, now that that's out of the way, the theme for today is one that's very, very close to my heart. In fact, it's the reason that we're all here. Today we'll be talking about connection. Connections between people, connections across differences, connections that unite us. We'll talk about how to spark connections and create community. And my favorite part, we're going to be talking about how connections transform us. And I mean that literally. We're going to dive into the brain science behind human relationships, digging deep into the mystical power they hold. Now, on top of that, everyone watching is going to get a great opportunity to apply for a wonderful grant for any social action project that they're leading that boosts connection and builds community. Now, the grant and the entire show today come from our good friends at the Heartwarming Project. Now, big thanks to them for helping us encourage more people to create inclusive spaces and empathetic communities. Now, you'll be hearing more about the Hershey Heartwarming Project grants, including what some past winners have done and how to apply a little bit later in the show. Also, friends, this is so fun. Our friends at Snapchat and Hershey's created a Spark Connection filter in celebration of today's program. So you can check it out on Snapchat and use it to spark connection today, and we can't wait to see you use those filters, and we're going to be using it a little bit later in the show too, but just a little preemptively, heads up, you know? But first, we need some context. We need to understand why we're doing this now, during the pandemic, when we're all physically distancing. The reason is because of the pandemic. Human connections are more important than ever. There's a slogan making the rounds online that sums it up. It's just two words, but it speaks to what we're all going through. Here it is. Together, apart. Now, the apart part is straightforward. We're staying apart to protect the vulnerable and allow healthcare workers to care for the sick. We all know that. It's so important. But the together bit, it's a bit trickier. No matter how far we are from each other, people are resilient. We want community. We want to share our lives and our experiences. In fact, that's the defining thing about us. Aristotle, the legendary Greek philosopher, famously said, "Man is by nature a social animal." Now, clearly Aristotle wasn't too inclusive. He should have said people, but you get the point. Now, you see the resiliency in the way people celebrate birthday parties at a distance, organizing parades with banners and music to show their love. You see it in the ways that teachers are going above and beyond to make meaningful connections with students. And you see it in the way that we've all taken to a new digital platforms to stay in touch and connected. It's that desire to connect that's driven the hundreds of past Hershey Heartwarming Project grant winners. There are so many amazing stories of different actions people have taken, some small, others huge. I'm going to drop them in. Let's try that again. Whew! I'm having a hard time reading today. I'm going to be dropping them throughout the show. But I want to give you one example now. More than 50 students at Cedar Heights in Washington State organized a #BeKind campaign. They organized a leadership training that focuses on inclusion and then created Be Kind cards that they hand out to students and staff to recognize when people have gone out of their way to be empathetic and kind to each other. It's a simple but powerful way to reinforce kindness. Isn't that so nice? Now, the connections we build today may look different than a few months ago, but they're the backbone of our well-being, boosting our mental and physical health. That's why even while physically distancing, especially while physically distancing, we need to take care of our relationships, check in with those around us, lean on others for help, and treat each other with love, respect, empathy, and kindness. Now, this is a big topic, and I actually think it's the most important topic. so I'm going to need some help with it. I have a really wonderful, lovely co-host today. We actually shared hosting duties quite a few times, and it's been so much fun, and we figured why not do it again. She's talented, she's unbelievably engaging, she's the best. Let's say hi to my friend Saram. Hi, Saram.
Hi, thank you. Hi, how are you, Spencer?
Good, how are you?
Good. I gotta say, I missed the mustache a bit, but you still look great. And I
Thank
am
you.
so glad to be here for this important topic. Actually, my entire job as a facilitator is about sparking meaningful connections, and I am a big believer in their power to unite, to uplift, and to make our lives better. And Spencer, you said something about a Snapchat filter. So
I did.
I'm really excited about that, and I need to document us together. So I'm going to take one right now. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. There we go.
Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. Say spark connection.
All right. We're so cute. So Saram, let's dive into the science of human connections. And a big shout out to psychologist Matthew Lieberman, because a lot of what follows comes from his book called Social: Why Our Brains Are Wired to Connect.
Wow, the title is actually a great place to start. Connections are built into our brains. That need is handed down to us from evolution and takes hold right at birth. A lot of us are profoundly shaped by our environment and our relationships, and the science behind that is actually really cool. So here it goes. Pain serves an evolutionary purpose. It's the body's way of warning us that something's a threat. Languages around the world use similar words for social pain. So we say our heart is broken or our feelings are hurt, and that's more than just a metaphor. That pain actually registers in our brains, just like breaking a bone would.
And that's because natural selection, the process that shaped us for hundreds of thousands of years, favored people who could connect with others and organize into groups. It's why we survived.
We feel social pain in our bodies. That's why it may hurt when a pic that we share doesn't get as many likes, but the upside is that we also feel the pleasure of connection. Secure relationships, sharing a laugh with friends, knowing that you have people to turn to, all of those things light up the pleasure centers of our brain. Pretty cool, right?
It really is, and simply put, we are happier and healthier when we have solid relationships. That's what we mean when we say we are wired for connection. It's as necessary as our need for food or water.
Now, all of that raises a bit of a problem, thinking about how do we connect these days? We may be wired for relationships, but that doesn't mean that we always practice connection well. In fact, there's a huge problem of loneliness these days. In the United States, half of all adults report being consistently lonely.
And that's bad, but in the US, Canada, and the UK, millennials are actually the loneliest generation. Now, we have more opportunity for connections than ever before thanks to our phones, but we need to be mindful of our relationships to use healthy habits and build spark meaningful connections.
That is more important now than ever. What we're going through right now, these feelings of isolation, of anxiety, of fear, it's taking a toll on our mental health. Experts warn that after COVID-19, there's going to be a spike in people facing mental health issues. Before we go any further, it's really important that everyone that's watching knows that they can reach out for help if they feel like they're struggling. You can always call the Kids Help phone to speak to a professional.
Absolutely. And focusing on our relationships now is the key to happiness today and in the future. Video call your friends and family, or host a virtual movie night.
Start a virtual book club or have a virtual dance party to break the cabin fever.
Or go for a physically distant walk with a neighbor or friend.
Or invest in the relationships that are under your roof by making sure that your time with family is quality time.
And this one is my favorite. Find people who share your passion for activism. That's what the Hershey Heartwarming Project grants are for, to support you in making a difference. And when you come together with others over a shared cause and take action, it not only makes the world a better place, but it boosts your resilience and bonds you to your friends. It's win-win. Now, if you want to learn more about the power of connections or have an idea to build meaningful connections and create more inclusive, empathetic communities, apply to receive a Hershey Heartwarming Project Action Grant for $250 and check out the link below.
Speaking of the grant, I want to share the story of a past winner. Now sit tight because this one is really inspiring. We all know how important books are to our development, right? But not just any book will do. We need books that represent our diversity. So 2 young boys from Tampa, Chase Hartman and Vance Tomasi, started an organization to collect and donate books to kids in need. In 3 years, they've collected more than 100,000 books, but many of them don't reflect the diversity of our society. So they applied for the grant and they used that to buy secondhand books with characters that look like all of us, sparking a love of reading and helping young people connect. That's so wonderful.
That's so nice, and I love the inclusivity of all of that. Absolutely. And like Jenna, if you're watching this today, you're probably pretty interested in making meaningful connections and creating change in your community. That's where the Hershey Heartwarming Project Action Grant comes in. And we've shared a few stories of past winners already today, and the grant has been used for some incredible projects. And if you have an idea, we want to hear from you.
Whether it's hosting an event, volunteering in your community, or running a campaign to write handwritten messages of kindness, we're looking for ideas that create connection and make your communities and schools more inclusive, kind, and empathetic.
The grant launches today, like right now, literally today. So check out the website below to learn more about the power of connections and apply to help kickstart your impact.
And if you need a little bit more inspiration, we have a special guest. She's a past grant winner and the student body president of her high school, so she knows a thing or two about making connections.
Like a lot of us, she's had her ups and downs when it comes to loneliness and feeling the urge to compare her life to what she's seen on social media. She channeled those experiences into something beautiful. To tell us about her project, let's welcome Jilly Alexander. She's on her way. She's on her way.
We just got to have a moment of suspense. Hi, Jilly.
Hi.
We're so glad you could join us.
I'm so thankful to be here. Thank you for having me. This is really exciting.
I know. So first of all, congrats on winning the grant and putting together what I heard was an amazing event. Can you tell us a little bit more about Heyday and how it came together at your school?
Yes. So back in the fall, my dad actually forwarded me this email he got, and it was talking all about how Hershey was working to address this epidemic of social isolation that's occurring within our generation, which, like you guys talked about, is kind of mind-blowing in a way because we have social media that we can use all the time and connect with others, yet we have this really concerning mental health problem of isolation. And right around the same time, at my school, we had Kevin Atlas come in, and he's an incredible motivational speaker, and he encouraged us to rise to his Believe in You challenge, which goes right along those same lines of making connections across campus, embracing diversity, things like that. So like you mentioned, I'm heavily involved in student government, and our sponsor is an alumni of Auburn University. And at Auburn, they have a really successful event called Heyday. And it's super simple. Basically, the goal is to just say, hey all day. So yeah, and that's a picture. You wear name tags, and it made it a little more personal. So
This is awesome. It sounds like a really incredible day. Now, Julie, we've talked about some of the issues that arise when people struggle with connections, issues like loneliness and isolation. Why was Heyday something that you were so passionate about?
Yeah, so I'm a senior now, graduating senior, but my junior year, I really started to struggle with isolation, and it was kind of a problem that went on all year, but right around the end of the year, I realized that it was really due to how addicted I was to social media. It was something I so heavily relied on, but ultimately I realized it was really hurting me. So for me personally, the solution to form those genuine connections was to delete social media so I could just live face to face. And Heyday was something I could do to help others do that.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. I bet a lot of people at your school also shared those feelings of loneliness. So tell us a little bit about what's the response been? How did it bring the students closer together or help them forge new connections?
Yeah, so I think just most importantly, like the Hershey grant allowed us to purchase name tags, and so there's over 2,000 students on campus, and as you walk from class period to class period, you see the same people, but you never really talk to them. You don't really know their names, so it just kind of allowed people to break the ice and just learn each other's names and gave them a great reason to actually talk to one another. And like that picture that was just shown, we had different SGA officers set up at the different entrances at school. And so it just was a really exciting way to welcome kids to campus that week and hopefully not overwhelm them. Yeah, it was just a fun day.
That's awesome. Now, can you give us a little bit more about like how the Hershey Heartwarming Project grant really helped make your project come alive?
Yeah. So actually, I received the grant after we hosted the event. I know I had applied for it, but it allowed us to refund those name tags, which were super important because it allowed it to be really personal. And like I mentioned, you could actually learn people's names and things like that. I don't think it would have really brought home the goal and accomplished that of connecting if we hadn't had those name tags. And the grant was really instrumental in purchasing those. And now we can hopefully get a better idea of where SGA can go with this next year and build upon it.
Yeah. Okay, Jilly, last question. This is super important because we have an audience of thousands out there watching, and a lot of them have issues they're passionate about and ideas to make a difference, just like you did. So we want all of them to take action and be inspired to make connections. What advice do you have for them?
Honestly, just like rip off the Band-Aid. This is like something, for some reason, like it goes right along with the problem. It's so uncomfortable for us to just like say hey to strangers. And it's even more uncomfortable to be like the leader of that and like walk around the hall saying hey to people you don't even know at like 7 a.m. But like once you get that started, you have to realize that if you're not going to do it, then who is? And that's kind of been my philosophy with leadership without high school and moving forward, because even though you may experience criticism or some failures or setbacks, to me, it's more important that maybe I'm subjected to criticism than somebody who needs a friend or needs that connection is continuing to live with that struggle.
Yeah.
Jilly, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to share your story with us. It sounds like it was an incredible project. We can't wait to see what happens next, and we just want to say a huge thank you.
Thank you, guys. It's nice to meet you.
Likewise, have a great weekend.
Thank you, too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Jilly touched on something incredibly important that I think we should take a bit of a deep dive into right now, and that is inclusivity. Making her high school an inclusive space, creating unity on campus, was part of the reason why she launched Heyday. But it's not just an issue in schools, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more right now.
Absolutely. So let's take that deep dive into this because it is so important. And it's been a pretty hot button topic in the last couple of years, and especially since COVID-19. We said earlier that we're hardwired for connection, and that's true, but the impulse to connect competes with other impulses. Like, who do we trust? And how to relate to people who look or sound different to us.
And there's been a lot of scientific research gone into the way that we think. Essentially, it can be boiled down into two ways that we see the world: slow thinking and fast thinking. Slow thinking is how we solve math problems or write essays. We take our time. We analyze, we puzzle things out. Then there's fast thinking. That's a little bit more subconscious. Making snap decisions about what's safe and what's not has helped us survive as a species.
But it's not great at navigating complex social issues or interpersonal relationships. In fact, a lot of stereotypes, societal judgments, and flat out incorrect assumptions can get baked into fast thinking because of cultural pressure.
Yeah, and one example of that is, there's this idea that men naturally make better leaders, and that stems from the history of mostly men leading countries. That kind of thought is so very wrong, but it can get lodged into our brains subconsciously and then influence how we see the world.
Fast thinking tends to divide us. It plays on fear, on differences, and even on hate. It says some
But,
people and situations are safe and others are not.
but that's not to say that we're prisoners of fast thinking. We have the ability to identify, interrogate, and rewire our snap judgments and make connections across differences.
And that is so important right now because since the spread of COVID-19, we're seeing a rise in discrimination and hate crimes against marginalized groups across Canada and the United States.
And right now, anti-Asian racism in particular is really spreading. In times of crisis, in times of fear, people often look for someone or a group of people to blame. And we've seen this pattern countless of times in the past. Right now, people of Asian descent are being targeted and discriminated against.
But we also know how to combat this trend. We can build inclusive communities that make space for everyone. It starts with recognizing our own biases or blind spots. It's a good practice to look at the stories, news, movies, books, and social media we consume, and then ask ourselves if the people we turn to offer perspectives that are different or the same as ours, or do they challenge or reinforce our ideas?
From there, we can begin to expose ourselves to more diverse voices so that we can better connect with the stories and the humanity of people who may look or sound different to us. That means not only watching movies or reading books that tell different stories, but also looking for inspiration and moral examples from outside of our own communities, from people of different abilities, races, genders, and ethnicities.
And the best way to break down differences is what this show is all about. Making connections. Now, I have a pretty simple rule. My throat today. I have a pretty simple rule that I always keep in mind. Ask, don't assume, listen, don't judge.
Now, that may sound simple, but it is incredibly powerful. And not just for you on a personal level, but for all of society.
When we make personal connections, we create ripple effects that reshape society.
The greatest social movements, those movements that have ushered the most change, were coalitions. They were groups of people from different backgrounds who all came together and connected over an issue. Just look at the Freedom Riders, the black and white activists who challenged segregation in the southern United States.
Or the Women's March in 2017, the single largest protest in United States history, one that championed intersectionality and interconnectedness.
And we see that same spirit on a much smaller scale in Jilly's story, as students in different cliques and social circles came together to work together and create a more inclusive environment.
Now, I think, Saram, that the lesson is pretty clear. We can break down the things dividing us and move beyond our differences. Now, to help us understand how we can all play a part in fostering inclusion and kindness online, we have some very special guests coming up.
Beyond Differences is an amazing organization that aims to inspire students to end social isolation and create a culture of belonging for everyone. Let's welcome Alex and Chiki from Beyond Differences to take us through an activity.
Hello, hello. Hi guys. Before we start our little segment today, I have my guitar with me, and I thought I'd start off the segment with a little song. You might know it from Toy Story. It's a great song, and yeah, let's get it. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed, you just remember what your old pal said. Boy, you got a friend in me. Yeah, you got a friend in me. Alright, guys. Yeah, that was just one verse of You Got a Friend in Me by Randy Newman. That song is great, and it's about friendship and inclusivity, and I thought I'd share with you guys. A little bit about myself. My name's Alex. I'm 17 years old, and I'm a part of Beyond Differences. Beyond Differences is a student-led nonprofit whose mission is to inspire youth across the country to end social isolation, and to also make an impact in middle schools across the country. I've been on the teen board for 3 years now, and we've done some pretty cool initiatives to bring people together. In my eyes, Beyond Differences is truly a special organization as we've reached millions of students in over 6,000 schools across the nation. There are three big initiatives that Beyond Differences created. Those being Know Your Classmates, No One Eats Alone, and Be Kind Online. Know Your Classmates deals with cultural, religious, and identity issues that can divide us, and it helps us learn about each other's differences and define things that we have in common with each other. No One Eats Alone encourages students to sit with kids they don't know and to spot kids sitting alone to make the idea of social isolation relevant. And lastly, Be Kind Online helps students navigate social media in a positive way. Speaking of positivity, I'm here with Chicky Diaz, who's also on the teen board with me, and is going to talk about Be Kind Online.
Hi, Alex and everyone out there. Today is Be Kind Online Day, a day where we learn how to be authentic and compassionate online, and how to make online spaces positive and inclusive. But really, we think that every day should be Kind Online Day. Now that we're all stuck at home and spending so much time on the internet, this is even more important. So we have some tips and activities to help navigate social media, and the thoughts and feelings we have when we're communicating behind a screen. Beyond Differences has created a comprehensive Be Kind Online toolkit with tons of cool interactive activities that schools can get for free to help you and your classmates be more inclusive on social media. And since school is now taking place at home for all of us during the shelter in place, you and your families can get the program for free to learn from and use too. The exercises in this program help raise awareness about the thoughts and feelings we have when we're online. I know that during the lockdown, it's a lot easier for me to get much more frustrated than I normally would. But by learning how to deal with this frustration, I can keep it from turning my online spaces into negative ones. Of course, feelings like this aren't new to us. Even before the lockdown, I saw a lot of people being negative online. For example, when people cancel others. Someone will say something that, yes, is harmful and hurtful, but then they'll get aggressively called out by the online community, shamed and shunned from online spaces. Instead of calling people out like this, canceling and aggressively excluding them, we should call people in and explain what they've done wrong. Then instead of feeling hurt and angry and continuing to perpetuate negativity online, they can learn from their mistakes and repair the damage they've done to the community. Hey Alex, how has social distancing changed your online behavior?
You know, that's a good question, because social distancing and not being able to see my friends has been a real challenge. But sending positive messages and being supportive when I talk to my friends online has really helped me stay connected. I think social media plays a big role in how we stay connected, and especially now that we're all stuck in our homes. Our presence on social media should definitely reflect who we are in the real world. Chicky, are you more positive or negative when you communicate in a group chat or post anything?
Great question, Alex. When I'm online, I try to stay positive. I really want to make sure that the online spaces I'm using are spaces that are inclusive for everybody. There are different things that I do to try and make this happen. One of the big ones is offering support. When I see others putting themselves out there online, I comment something nice, give them a like, or do anything that lets them know that I recognize and appreciate their efforts and their contributions. Also, I generally don't use the dislike button. If I see a post that I disagree with, I leave it be and move on. There's no need for me to contribute negativity to that space. And if someone's posting something just to be controversial and create noise, reacting is only taking the bait and it just adds to the problem. Of course, I'm not perfect, and I alone can't change online spaces. None of us can. But if we're all working together, doing small things to spread a little love and kindness, that's when we can make a change. We all have an online voice, and with that voice comes the power to choose whether we want to be positive or negative. Whether we want to contribute our authentic selves to make better online spaces, or just add to the noise and the buzz that brings them down. Now we have some tips for you to help you stay positive online. Can you move to the next slide, please? So take a moment to stop and think before you post something. Make sure you're not putting something online that's going to hurt someone else or even come back and harm you in the future.
And also, think about the person you're sending this to. How will they react? Will they be offended by the message? If you're worried how they'll react, is it really worth sending at all?
And it's really important to be your authentic self online. Figure out what makes you special so that you can share it with others and bring your positivity to the online community. People want to see the real you.
Yeah, and as Chiki stated before, the cancel culture has excluded many people online. When you see someone intentionally calling someone out, a good idea is to check in on that person or to make a positive comment to counter the negativity. Social media gives each person the same platform, so when someone's being brought down, checking in on them can bring them right back up.
And finally, only you can control toxic influences. They do not have power over you. You're the one who chooses how you feel and how you act. You can and should choose to stay positive, no matter what's happening online.
Those are great tips, Chiki, that all of us can use. Chiki and I actually wrote down one thing that we can do to be more inclusive on social media and to inspire others to do the same. As for me, I'm going to post thoughtful and supportive comments on my friends' posts.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Alex. I'm not going to post anything that I wouldn't say to someone's face.
We can all work together to be a more supportive and inclusive community.
Share your thoughts on how you can inspire others, and let us know what you're going to do to be kind online today. Tag us with hashtag #BeKindOnline.
That was so great. Thank you, Alex and Chiki. Some really helpful tips for all of us to remember these days as we're spending more time online on how to spread kindness. And it's a great reminder to everyone that reaching out, making connections, asking for help is so important to improve our well-being and mental health.
Yes, in fact, I think that it would be fun to do a bit of a recap of everything that we've learned today. Shall we? So this is how it's going to work. We'll ask some trivia questions and everyone watching at home can play along in the chat. Cool?
All right, here we go. First question. Connections and healthy relationships do what? A, boost our immune system. B, make us happier. C, help us improve society. Or D, all of the above. We want to see those answers in the chat. Take a second. Type them in, type them in.
Spencer, you actually sing really well.
Thank you.
This is our new We Day talent. All right, my friends, the answer is D, all of the above and more. They also lead to improved physical health and help us grow as individuals. Connections are key. All right, number 2. According to surveys, the loneliest generation in the US, Canada, and the UK are A, boomers, B, millennials, C, Gen Z, or D, Gen X.
What do you think it is, folks?
Let's see some guesses in the chat.
Give you a couple
know
more
the answer.
seconds. You do?
Because you said it before.
Yeah, I did say it before, and it's also in the script. Okay,
Exposed.
the answer is B, millennials. Now, remember, fostering personal connections, practicing gratitude, empathy, compassion, and forgiveness are all great ways to combat loneliness. And if you're struggling, you can always reach out to a professional at the Kids Help Phone. Okay, now, let's move on to number 3. What is one thing that we can all do these days to make connections while physical distancing? Is it A, be kind online, B, ask, don't assume, listen, don't judge, C, reach out to people in our lives who may be isolated, or D, all of the above? Yeah. What do you think? Tell us.
Should we tell them?
Yeah, let's tell them.
Okay.
Let's tell them.
All right, my friends. The answer is all of the above. It's D. Connections take so many forms, and there are unlimited tools to help them take root and grow. All right, last question. If you want to make a difference in your community, foster connection, and build inclusive space, you should A, apply for the Hershey Heartwarming Project grant, or B, do nothing.
Listen, Saram, come on. I think this is an easy one. Get more info on the grant at the website below and kickstart your projects. All right. I don't know why I think that's so funny, but I do. Next up, we have an expert in building connections using digital technology. Now, I had the chance to sit down with her earlier this week to talk about her philosophy on connections and how we can all give back to our communities while physically distancing. Now, I actually learned a lot in this conversation, and I hope you will too. She's the product marketing lead at Instagram, and this is my conversation with Divya Kunapuli. Folks, I'm really excited today to have a special guest with us at We Schools Live. Her name is Divya Kunapuli, and she is the product marketing lead at Instagram. Divya, thank you so much for joining us. It's so nice to talk to you. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So today's show is all about connections in all facets. And so I thought maybe where we could start is you could share a little bit with myself and our guests about your role and what your job is at Instagram.
Yeah, of course. So as you mentioned, I work on the product marketing side, specifically the consumer product marketing side on well-being. So the way that we think about well-being at Instagram is ensuring that Instagram is the safest and most supportive platform for our entire global community. So a lot of the work that I do is ensuring that our consumer voice comes through in all of the products we build, all of the campaigns we launch, any project we work on, and specifically through the lens of well-being, which is interesting since especially now well-being is a phrase that is used kind of frequently. People have kind of different definitions of it, but Instagram has been doing it for a long time. We really, really care that our entire community feels safe and supported at all times.
Yeah, which I think is specifically right now such an important part of our culture, and our history. Like that will be something that's super important. So I mean, as you sort of mentioned, due to COVID-19, we're all sort of staying home and physically isolating right now. Can you tell us more ways that you're building community through your work?
Yeah, so the way that we think about well-being is that it consists of everything from our work on leading the fight against online bullying to mental health awareness to protecting elections. It is an election year in the US, and there are also global elections around the world. Helping people raise money for nonprofits on Instagram. We actually recently just launched the ability to fundraise within Live for nonprofits, and that's super, super topical, especially now given that there are a lot of COVID-19 relief efforts underway. But also ensuring that people have access to credible information. We want to make sure people are getting the right information at the right time. And I think we're in a world where people have kind of all thoughts and opinions about what's happening and what is actually accurate. So Instagram's doing a lot of work to make sure that what you're seeing and reading is actually factually and credibly sourced.
Amazing. I once again, it's like you said earlier, I think it's so important that we have those right facts, because we're swirling in a pool of all sorts of things, and it's hard to make sense of that. So I think that's really, really important. My last question for you is, what's one thing you'd like to see people do with their time while they're physically distancing to make their community, their world, or, a kinder, more caring place?
I love this question because it's honestly something I think about every day, not just for work, but also for work. So it's a nice sort of like marriage of my passions. I think right now it's so important for everyone to be a little kinder to themselves and to other people. I think practicing empathy is something that we should be doing every day, no matter what, but especially now where people are going through not just physical change, but also this emotional, turbulent change. And I think part of that is just thinking about what you're saying to your peers, to your coworkers, to your family. One of the things we've done at Instagram, we actually launched this last year, is the ability to sort of pause and reflect on what you're saying. So think about a heated moment that you're having and you leave a comment on maybe a friend's picture. It's just something that came up and you just want to get it out. We actually give people the ability to sort of take a moment, reflect on what they posted before it actually goes through, so the other person on the receiving end won't receive the notification until you're sure you want to post it. I think that practice should be applied to off-platform behavior as well. I think really being intentional about your words and what you're saying is more relevant now than ever.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a great way to end is really reflecting and thinking about your intention and how that will affect not only you, but the person in front of you. And will that deepen the connection or will that push the connection further away?
Exactly.
Divya, thank you so much for your time today and for what you're doing through Instagram and all the work that you're doing for the world. We really, really appreciate it. And it was such a pleasure to have you on We Schools Live today.
Thank you. This was fun. Thank you so much.
For sure.
That was a really interesting conversation. And as someone deeply invested in my own Insta aesthetic, it was really cool getting some insights into some of these features like well-being and online fundraising. Pretty cool.
Right? And I like, just a side note, I loved her earrings. Like, I think they were so cute.
I was thinking the same thing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Anyway, and I miss my mustache, but you know what? By Tuesday, this will be back again. My facial hair grows so fast.
Oh, that's
anyway,
not bad.
No, it'll be quick. Okay, enough about my mustache. We've talked about the science of connection and why it's important. Now, we want to give you some really practical tips on how to improve your connections.
First of all, it's really important to be accepting of whatever it is that you feel. Don't judge yourself. Don't get down on yourself. These are tricky times. And if you miss your friends, if you feel lonely, that's okay. This won't last forever.
And that being said, it's important to stay positive if you feel like you can. You know, this is true for our relationships with friends and for new connections we want to spark. Try not to focus on the negative, but instead look at the strengths and what can be done to improve the situation.
Next, find something social that you can look forward to every week. So maybe it's a virtual pizza party, or every Monday is games night with friends over Zoom.
And finally, don't underestimate the power of small, heartwarming gestures. You know, this can make a big difference. So look for ways to brighten the days of the people around you. You know, be kind to your siblings, help out around the house, send a text to a friend you haven't spoken with in a while, or call your grandparents. I can't stress this one enough.
All right, that's nearly it from us. It's been an absolute blast today, and I feel more connected already. Thank you so much for spending time with us. And don't forget to check out the Hershey Heartwarming Project grant to see what other incredible young people have done, find some inspiration, and apply for your grant money to start making connections.
And remember what I said at the beginning? We are together, apart. No one is alone in this, even if it may feel that way sometimes. Treat yourself and your friendships with kindness, and we'll get through this together, I promise.
If one good thing comes from this entire experience of slowing down and staying home, it's that more people will have an appreciation for what really matters in life. Those moments that we share with the people that we love and the space that we make for others. So let's use this time to invest in the people in our lives and dream up of ways to make our communities more inclusive.
Thank you again to the Heartwarming Project for making today possible and for empowering so many young people to make a difference in their lives and their communities.
Have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and remember to take care of yourself and the people around you. Bye.
Bye.